Yes, start recording. So, hello, my name is Yunus. I will be your one of your teachers for the next 3 weeks, uh, teaching you JavaScript too. I work as a web developer. I'm from Algeria, North Africa, so I speak Arabic. Also, I speak French a bit and stuff. So, feel free to talk with me in any language. Of course, if I can speak. Yeah, that's a bit about myself, and we have here.
Yeah, I'm Pankaj. I'm here for just this class. I'm from India. I also work as a front-end developer at a blockchain startup. So I was teaching this class. I have taught it 3-4 times in the past. So, but not this time. This time it's Yunus and someone else. So I'm here to just replace the second teacher because he's sick. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Nir, and I used to be a student before here, and I graduated from computer, and then I started to join as a assistant mentor. So I was teaching with Pankaj before the same class, and yeah, I work as a front-end developer now, and yeah, I'm happy to be here again, but for only 2 days. So, so see you around.
Cool. So for the next 3 weeks, we will be like in JavaScript too, as you know. And the main subject I would say about this topic is like until now we have been like learning basic JavaScript, like how to do like programming, for loops, functions, like basic programming. It doesn't have to do anything with like any browser or anything, just like basic programming. Now we will try to move like that basic understanding into the browser, and we'll just try, for example, moving stuff. So the way you map over elements or you do a for loop, we can do it in the browser and do something interactive. So you'll be using your JavaScript understanding and your coding understanding and moving it to more of like useful context. So it's like applying it in the browser. That will be the main thing. But before really talking about that, there is like few things we need to sort out. And I'm a bit of a whiteboard person, so I would be like going to whiteboard a lot. I don't know why, but yeah, that's just me. So yeah. Just to do we have a marker over here? Does this count as a marker? Not really. I'll just bring the marker.
I can just see the mirror.
Oh, you cannot see. That's a trap.
Oh, okay. No,
That's a
but
trap.
I can see the white
You
one,
weren't
but
supposed to see.
I'm gonna take a seat then.
Yeah, feel free, of course. Let's just talk about like the basic understanding. Everyone, just focus, please. Let's just talk about like the basic understanding of like at least what you understand until now in terms of like.
Do you see everything?
So
No,
The Jonas, he cannot see either.
seriously.
Seriously.
You can move.
yeah.
It's better now?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm sorry for
Oh,
that. Yes, so until now I've been working in your computer. Okay, let's say this is your computer or your phone or anyway, this is your computer. And the purpose of being at my computer is to build like websites or web applications, or at least that's like the minimal scope. But overall, like if let's say you work at Google, okay, and you are tasked to build the google.com page. Does it make sense? So you would build the HTML, the CSS of google.com, like just the basic HTML and CSS, and after that you would put it in a server. And what I mean by server, just another computer. Like usually we refer to it as a box because it's like powerful, but it's not really the case. Maybe your computer is more powerful than the server, but it's just another computer. You put your HTML and your CSS in it and things like that. So this will act as a server, and this will act as a client. What does it mean? Where you put your code, it's like a place where people can actually give me google.com, and you will give them the web page. So this is the central place where there is the server, and it's your code. And the clients are the people. When you connect to Google, you are a client. There's like millions of people who are connecting to Google, and they are all clients. Does it make sense? So this is just the basic thing. So when you visit google.com, your browser will just request the server of Google. It's like, hey, someone is going to google.com slash. It's like, it's not like slash home, just slash root. And Google will reply, hey, this is my index.html. Okay? And your index.html, the browser will pick it up and it will convert it into pixels in the screen with the Google logo and this button here and stuff. Does it make sense? So basically what you see here in your browser is just like converting HTML file. The browser is converting an HTML file into some pixels on the screen, some like visuals. But basically you have been working on like text files, P and stuff like that, and Flexbox and doing CSS, and that thing will be translated in the browser by CSS. But of course, this is just like sort of an abstract story. There's like so many things, so many details here that probably even me that I don't understand. But the basic thing that you should keep in mind is that somewhere else, you put your HTML files, someone will request them, you'll send them back, the browser will be responsible to convert the HTML files into pixels. Make sense? Please stop me if you have any questions. Let's say we have a brief HTML file. Okay? Let's say we have like the head here and we have the body. So just say this is the body. I will not repeat it. So let's say you have a div here. Okay? And you have another P inside it. UL.
Somebody has to.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Bye.
Hello. I think you have to take one of the seat from there.
You can just go, sure. It's fine, it's fine. No one is talking.
At least we can tell that we need to speak something.
Or let's say we have a image here. Is my handwriting a bit clear? Bit. We have a div, a P, a UL with an li inside it. So it's a UL with an li inside it. And we have a div, we have closing the div, and we have an image. Does it make sense? So just a div, P, UL inside it. So this, let's say this is what the browsers receive. So this is what you have built. This is the HTML page that you have built. Does it make sense? So before actually let's forget about this. Before your browser actually is displaying, because your browser is responsible, Chrome or any, is responsible for like converting this into some UI, some pixels. What's the process of that? Of course, we will not build that. It's not really our responsibility. That's what the process of that. So, just like as an abstraction or as like a high-level idea, without like going about much details, and this sort of like structure is kind of like a tree. I don't know if you've noticed, HTML is like a tree, where you have like a head and it has some children, and these children have some children. So it's like a tree. So let's start with the body. Okay? And the body has two children, which are the div and the image. The div and the image. Make sense? The image doesn't have any children. The div has two children, a P and a UL. And P does it have any children? It kind of have children, which is just text. It's kind of child, but it's not like full-fledged child. But it's kind of child. It's just like a text. It's not like a full child. But yeah, wait, it doesn't have children, technically. And the UL, only one li with some text. Does it make sense? So this is sort of like a visual of what our HTML looks like. This is the first step. The second step is, in your HTML, you will probably have like the HTML file. CSS. Just call it style. .css. In the link in your head, just so you can reference some CSS. Does it make sense? You can like reference to some like CSS from outside. The browser does the same for the CSS. So if you have a CSS with like P and some styling, and you have a div with an immediate UL, or yeah, that's something like that, and some CSS here. So the browser will actually, the browser first builds this and says after, oh, I have a styling for P. I go to P, and for example, let's say we have a background here. It will say, oh, this should be background red. I have styling for UL, this one, inside the div. And this should be border 1 pixel something. Does it make sense? So the browser, first step, just converts this into a tree, and after that apply it CSS. And what we will see is that we can also say JavaScript. You have been like referencing JavaScript until now. You've tried that. Saying like script with source. You tried that all. So you can say here script, and you say source equal some JavaScript file. That JavaScript will also be loaded. And soon we will see how to manipulate this with JavaScript. So you will be able to say, oh, I want to remove this. Oh, I want to delete this one. Oh, I want to add something here. I want to delete this child, or add another child here. So we will see all like what JavaScript gives us in terms of flexibility, how we do that. But this is primarily the three things that you need to kind of keep in mind as a web developer for the next 20 years. Maybe something else will change, but I don't know. Until now, this is what you should keep in mind. You have your HTML. Your HTML will be a tree like this. This is of course like an oversimplification, could be like a huge tree, like huge. Like Facebook, if you see like your list of contacts, it's like huge. If one of them is an li, it's like a lot of li's. And you have some CSS. Your CSS will be applied to that tree. And we will also like see how we will do that with JavaScript. How we will actually attach things to JavaScript. Does it make sense? Yeah. Any questions? That's weird. Should have took you a lot of time. I'm left with nothing.
Maybe they prepared very well.
What?
Maybe they prepared very well.
Yeah, maybe. Better than me. Sure? No questions?
Not
Okay.
so far.
What?
Not so far.
Okay. Let's see. Let's start coding and we will see. So if you can just please follow with me.
Yunus, can you increase the font size? It's very small.
Nope. So I will have an index.html Does it make sense? Just an HTML file. I will cheat a bit and do this.
Should we follow or?
No, just follow me. Like you will have like some exercises to practice. So just try to get the idea.
You should start recording and
Yes, it's recording.
Finally.
Yes. So let's say we have a div here. The same thing that we did. We have a p. Hello world. We have a UL with one li. Okay. And let's say test here. And I will just put an H3 or something. Let's avoid images now. Footer. Cool. Let's say copy path. Whoa. Amazing. So, let's also create a new CSS file. Let's say just main.css. I didn't load CSS for a long time. Is it the role? Yes, I still remember. Damn it. Let's say P is background light yellow. It doesn't exist, or just yeah, it does exist. It's like, let's say light green instead. This is much better. It works. Is it fine until now? We have just one HTML file. We've added the CSS file. We created the link. Clear? Let's do the same thing for a JavaScript file. Let's say index or main.js. Okay. We'll go down here. We say script source. We say main.js. Let's just put a console.log here. Say hello from JSLand. We refresh. It is clearly not loading.
Shouldn't that be the header or?
Not necessarily actually. Oh, this is wrong. Script can never be like this. Yes. Cool. So the process of this is that you will send like an HTML file to the browser, and the browser will start like looking, oh, building like that tree that we talked about. And it will say like, oh, it's an HTML, it's a head, it's a meta, it's a meta. Oh, there's a link here. And the link has some CSS. So it will take the name of the file and it will go and get the file. Yes?
Shouldn't we write a script in the head inside?
Well, actually you can write the script like wherever you like. You can put it here. We will talk we will talk about the difference, but for you it doesn't make any difference. You can put it there. We will see like maybe we'll have a problem about that, but the idea is that, so let's say you have like a P here, and you want to reference it from JavaScript. You want to do something with it with JavaScript. By the time your browser will be on the script, the browser still didn't see the P. So the browser will see like there is no P. What are you talking about? So this is why we usually put the script down. So we go to the JavaScript when everything is done. Does it make sense? So it's just like an order. But for now, doesn't really make a... If we will have an error, we will change it. But yeah, that's a good catch. Let's just keep it here.
And
Makes-
you should put it just before closing the body tag.
Yeah.
So in the end.
Yeah. Okay. So yes. So we said that also like JavaScript will like find the script. Oh, so it's a JavaScript file. Let's go and get it. And it will get the JavaScript file and run it. And running it will yield you with this. hello from JSLN. Does it make sense? So these are like the three main things in the like in the browser. So the browser understands JavaScript, understands CSS, and also understands HTML. And HTML is sort of the main thing, because HTML is what we display, CSS is what we style with, and JavaScript is like for logic. Does it make sense? Let's say I want to delete this H3 from, let's say, like, this is not an admin and we want to delete this one because it's not an admin, something like that. How we will do that from JavaScript? The first thing that we learn today is that how to actually reference things from JavaScript. How from JavaScript to say, give me this P or this thing. So let's just keep this. There is something called the document. I don't know if you are familiar with. You are? All of you? No. So, yes, we care about everyone. So, if you go to the browser, you're familiar with the console, that you can run JavaScript in the console. So you can say 1+1 or console.log. So any JavaScript that you can run also in the console here. Test, it will print. Does it make sense? So this is like a place where you can run your JavaScript interactively, and you get feedback straight away instead of like running for the whole file to run. And in JavaScript, the way sometimes you declare a variable, you say const name or something, and you declare a variable, but there is some sort of like pre-declared variable for you that JavaScript defines for you. So instead of you making, like, you can make a variable called name, you can make a variable called last name, make a variable called user. JavaScript also has some predefined variables, and one of them, for example, is the window. I didn't create window. Window is like predefined by JavaScript. It's a variable, it's an object that is predefined by JavaScript. Document is also the same. Document is also like a variable that is predefined by JavaScript. What? Well, that's not necessarily, but these are linked through the prototype. But it's just a variable at the end. So document is just a variable. Does it make sense?
So can you use the document as variable when you are writing the code in JavaScript?
No, because now it's like you have a name. I will get her name, or I have a name and she get my name. When you call me with my name, we will be confused. So if you have document and you create a variable called document, which document you refer to? Like, that will create confusion. So that's kind of not allowed to do that. So just avoid the predefined.
Predefined variable.
Yes. So undefined, for example, you have been like saying undefined. Undefined is a predefined variable.
So it's a reserved keyword.
Exactly. And like actually undefined is like literally a variable, not a keyword. So before in the time you could do this. You could say undefined equal 5 or something, and that will like crash everything. But yes, don't do that. There is some predefined variables like document. We will see why they are useful, but just get the idea that JavaScript defines some variable for you, so we can work with the browser. So one of them, which is like really important, and you will be using it primarily, it's the document. And what does the document means? It's like your HTML document. So this is like, this represents your HTML document. You can see when I say document here, it's like making everything blue. Because, oh, you are referring to the document, which is the whole HTML. From the head, like literally, this whole HTML. So this is a document. Does it make sense? We will see why it's useful. We also have a window. And the window means like, literally, the window. The browser window. So maybe like you want to like say, oh, if the browser window resizes, or if something happened to the window, do something. You know what I mean? So it's like some utilities to work with the window and some utilities to work with the document. The first thing that we will take a look into, so the document is an object that has some properties. One of them is this, get element by ID.
Did you know what is
What? No?
Did you know what is object?
Uh, I know, but yeah, because they got the basic. So it's just an object with a bunch of like keys and also methods or functions. You are all familiar with the object. Just an object, key values. So we have a key called getElementById, and its value is what? It's a function. Its value is not like a string or something, it's a function. Does it make sense? So it's a function. You can see here. If we call this function, we need to give it one parameter, which is an ID. So let's say we go here and we say p ID text, or just give it sort specific name, my text. Does it make sense? So if we refresh here, we can go to this one, go to the div, and we see an ID here. So if I will say here document.getElementById, and I will say my text, it will get a P for me. Does it make sense? We will see why it's useful, why you want to get a P. Like, we already have it here. What's the purpose of having it here? But this is not real. This is just the browser printing it beautifully. We can say something like this. No. So we can put this as like a P. Okay, and we can say console. Instead of log, we would say dir, which is sort of the same as log. It's just like lot of things. A lot of things that no one really understands, including me. We don't care about that. But the idea is that, so what I was talking about here, that the browser will do that, and this, and this. These actually, for example, the P over here, for JavaScript is just an object. Does it make sense? So if JavaScript will convert that P, that you wrote it as a text, into actually objects. So when we said the tree is not just something abstract, it's just an idea, it's a real thing. So JavaScript will go through all the P's and the divs and stuff and convert them into a tree. And it's a tree of objects, kind of, the way you saw it. Of course, that it has so many keys, it's like super huge. Yeah, we should not care about that. Like, nobody really cares about that. You would like the document is also huge, but you will have like getElementById and a few other methods to interact with. The rest of things is just like some noise, and maybe if you want to do like super, like really, like 99% of the time you should not care about that. Does that make sense? But you will tell me why JavaScript will convert these into objects. What's the purpose of that? So the purpose is that if these things will be converted to JavaScript objects, that means the way you did so many operations with JavaScript objects, like adding keys, deleting keys, changing keys. You remember that? You have username, you can change the name, you can add the name in the user object. The same thing you will be able to do with the P. So this is the powerful thing. This is like the power. That a P in HTML in a text file will be converted to a JavaScript object. So we can actually change it. Change its text, change its looks, change its CSS dynamically. Does it make sense? For all of you? So this is sort of the purpose of doing that. We are just bringing the HTML into the land of JavaScript. So now we can use all what we learned in JavaScript to actually do whatever we like literally do whatever we like, with the P's and divs and all these things. No questions?
When we declare the P, it should be like const P?
Yeah, just because I'm in the browser console. I don't care. But yeah, that's a really good remark. Yeah, you should not do like me. Don't be like me.
Like IDs can get access to classes as well.
Sorry?
And like if we are using ID to get, for example, the
Yeah.
access key, and can we use the class in the same way?
Yes.
Okay.
We will see. So that's a really good question actually. So we have like document.getElementById. GetElementById. Does it make sense? We give it an ID, it gives us a node. We have getElementById by I hate when there is no control. By class name. So we have also this method. This method you give it a class, but the only difference if you see this one is get element by ID, like one element. But this one is get elements. What's the difference? It's like you remember that an ID should be only put in one element, and class you can share it with multiple. So this is like now JavaScript saying like, hey, I told you this before. Like if you have an ID on multiple elements, it's your issue. We told you to not do that.
It behaves like an array or
What?
then it behaves like an array?
Yes, so it will return you a list of things. So it will, if you have like class called class1, you put it on 3 elements, you will get 3 elements in an array. Array like we call it. But you can say 0, 1, 2. Does it make sense? We can also say get element by
By name or by name.
get elements by tag name. So we can give it a P, and there is 2 P's here. Or we can give it an li. Does it make sense? So this returns the things that matches the element itself. But there is the sort of more really powerful one, which is called document.querySelector. And the other instance called querySelector_all. What's the difference between querySelector and querySelector_all? Let's talk about querySelector first. QuerySelector, you give it a CSS-like selector. So you can see, give me the div or the UL inside the div. You can literally write a CSS query here. So it's the most powerful one. You're not limited to IDs, to classes, to tags. You can write a full-fledged 300 lines of code of like CSS query, whatever you like. Does it make sense? And it will give you back the things. Or we can say like this, for example. And we have another one which is querySelector_all. So it's the same as querySelector, but querySelector only returns one element. querySelector_all will return all the matched elements. Does it make sense?
So query selector
Which
will
value will the query selector return?
What?
If it has an array of tags or elements or IDs, which one will it return? Is the first element of the array?
It will return. What do you mean? Like
First one, yeah. So if it matches more than one,
More than one.
then it will return first.
the first one, wow. And the first one could be really cryptic, like the way you define the first one.
First
If
one
you want
would
something
be.
particular, we should mention it.
So when you search a tree, the first one basically means that you look at the first child, and then you look at all the children of the first child, and then you look at all the children. So you are walking the tree, but you are going to the left element first. And if you have ended if there is nothing more, so you go up and then you go to the next child. So it's basically the first element from the top in your HTML.
Yes, and left to right.
Yeah.
So this is more important. This until the right. And for example, here I said querySelector everything. You know the star is like everything. I got a list.
You already said query selector all. Why do you need to define everything?
Yeah, but querySelector_all. So querySelector give you one element. So if you give it like
All keys or something.
yeah.
Okay.
So this now give us only one element, which is the HTML element. So even if you match multiple elements, querySelector will still only return one element, the way he described it. Does it make sense? querySelector_all will return all the matched things.
And if you search for something which is not there, it will return undefined.
Of course you can undefined. And you can override undefined.
And query selector all will return an empty array if you search for something which is not there.
But the query selector, we can check if it is present or not.
So if you get undefined, it means you are searching for something which is not there. But if you use query selector all and the length of the array is 0, then there is nothing.
So let's try what he said. So let's say we want a div, or we want like OL inside the div. It returns null or undefined. If you say all, it will return an empty array like. Does it make sense? So this is all what you know in terms of actually from JavaScript, saying give me this or give me that or give me this list. This is the basic things. You can query by CSS selectors, you can query by IDs. Some people will say, oh, this is much faster than this, query selector all is like slower than this. You should not care about that. It is completely irrelevant. Just remember that you have some methods that can actually grab into your HTML, so you can go to your HTML and get this P and get this UL and things. Yes, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just wondering about that query div. I know OL, it says search for OL inside div.
Yes, immediate. Children of.
Immediate means as soon as the div tag is started, then the first.
Yes, the first child. So it's not like a child of his child. It's like an immediate child. It's not like a descendant. It's like a child,
Okay,
not a
so
descendant.
If we apply that on the recent example, it will not pick up that OL because that wasn't the first one in div.
There was no OL at all.
There is UL.
There was a UL, not a OL.
I use my glasses now.
UL, OL, confusion. Does it make sense? Questions? Clear for everyone?
What's the DOM?
What? What's the DOM?
Yeah,
The DOM is the
they would see it on the
Object model document.
yes. So the tree that we built, or the browser built, not us, it's called DOM, which means document object model. Well, you don't need to remember the name. Only if like you want to pretend that you know those stuff things. I know the abbreviation. Nobody cares. What the DOM means? The DOM is like an abstraction or an idea of what the browser looks at your HTML. So the browser doesn't see, as we said, a text file. The browser sees like a tree of nodes, and these are objects, and they have some CSS and some things inside them. This is called the document object model. So this is what the model that the browser interacts with. So that's what the DOM means. Does it make sense? So if you hear someone saying the browser will paint the DOM or the browser will display the DOM, oh yeah, the browser will just take this tree and like because before the browser will actually render pixels on the screen, it will convert the HTML file into a DOM, and there's a whole process of converting it. You can read about it, it's irrelevant, honestly. And that object model will be converted to pixels. Because it's easier to convert this than to convert this. And it's easier to manipulate this than to manipulate this. Imagine if you have a text file here, and you want to get a P. How are you gonna do that? Will you like parse the text and search for P's and like do text? So this is an intermediate format that the browser builds for you, which is just a bunch of objects related to each other. So this one say, oh, this is my parent. Oh, these are my children. Oh, I have a class name here. Oh, I have an ID. So as we said, for example, did I take it somewhere? Oh, it's there. So when we gave a P some CSS, you can say here, oh, some CSS, and also some ID. Okay, so inside your object there is a CSS, not a CSS file. It's also, so there is also something called CSS on. And the CSS on is like, so it's CSS object model. So this is the document object model, the HTML document. This is the CSS object model, which is just the browser also before like converting your CSS and running it, it will convert it to a tree. So this is like a P with some attributes, and this is also another P, and it will just like apply them together. It will apply the CSS to the
Relevant object.
exactly, and that will be the result of much complex tree, and that will be created. painted means displayed in the browser.
So whatever he was doing, document.query or document.select element by ID, this is called querying the DOM, that there is a tree and you are asking questions to that tree. And if you put your script tag in the head, then like on the internet you can read that DOM was not ready at that time. It means the document object model was not ready for you to query that thing. It was in the process of, the browser was still building the DOM and it was not ready, and you just you started asking questions to the DOM and it could not answer them. So if you want DOM to be ready, before you can ask anything, then you should put your JavaScript in the end. And when you are saying document.query selector or query selector, all you are asking questions. And if you like, right now we have light green, and if you change the color to light red or something, then you are manipulating the DOM, you are changing the DOM.
Yeah.
So these are standard terms which will help you when you are searching for answers on Stack Overflow.
But I think it will work both ways. But the only difference will be it will paste your standard structure without any CSS applied on, and then when it gets JavaScript, then it will apply. So it will kind of blank something.
So he has this document.query selected div UL. If you write it in a JavaScript file and the JavaScript file is included before the body tag, then browser will return null, because it does not know at that point of time that there is a div and there is a UL. He can show you that just by moving the JavaScript file to the top.
We still don't have any. So let's try and make an example of what he said. So let's say query selector P. Let's put this one here. Let's say const P console.log P. You can see that it's returning null. Why? Even though I have a P. If I would pass this one here, it will give me a P. Does it make sense? Why there is no P here? Because of exactly what he said. That the script here, so HTML will be like going like line 1, line 2, and building the tree. Line 3, build the tree. Line 4, build the tree. Line 5, build 6, 7. It will like meet a JavaScript file. Before proceeding, it needs to get the JavaScript file and run it. And when you run it over here, it will say get element query selector of P. We don't have any P yet. We don't even have a body. Like, what are you talking about?
But there is some function you can put to JavaScript in the beginning, like load whole HTML, and then.
What do you mean?
I don't know what is the function.
You mean like? Do you mean like attributes? Here?
No, she's talking about waiting for DOM to be ready. So
yeah.
All of you must have heard about jQuery, and it was really good at doing that. So when we were using jQuery before, we were writing all of our script in the head, and then we would wait for DOM to be ready. But then people just realized that you don't need that DOM ready thing. If you just move your script at the bottom, you don't have to worry about DOM being ready.
Yeah.
And you can start manipulating, and you don't need all those libraries.
Yes. And I don't remember that name, and you don't remember that name. Who remembers that name? Google. Wait for DOM to load JavaScript. jQuery, the thing that he was. We have something here. DOM content loaded. It doesn't work like the jQuery one, but yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's copy past code. Let's put it here. What? I use semicolons a lot. But I work in a so yeah, there is a fight in my company. So my company doesn't use semicolons. it's you cannot use them. So it's I don't know. I'm sad. But yeah, I like semicolons. Yes, I have a Java background. Yes, so I have a semicolon. Let's put semicolons everywhere. So now if we load, we will have the hello world. Why? Because again, when we are here, JavaScript wants to run. It will run this, but this function will not run immediately. This function, it doesn't run because we are passing it to this. And what this kind of says is just when the content of the DOM is loaded, run it. So JavaScript will not run it. We will continue. When we are done, JavaScript will go back and run this function because this is done. Does it make sense? But as we said, we don't really need it that much now. Just move this to the end. And you will have. Does it make sense? No questions? Clear? Are you sure? It should be difficult. It took me a lot of time to understand this stuff.
Yeah, but you made it very easy with that tree.
Yeah.
You wrote some HTML on the board and then you drew a tree. You wrote on the here and then you were doing queries. So it has been super easy to understand. So.
Cool. Glad for that. So now we sort of, as he said, we finished the first part, which is querying, asking questions for the DOM. So the browser have like sort of a structure. It's called a data structure. So a structure inside it, and we start asking questions. Give me the list of these elements. Give me the elements with this class. Give me the elements with this ID, without ID. So we are essentially asking questions to the HTML. Does it make sense? So we have some functionalities and some functions to ask questions, and we get answers based on that. Oh, here is an empty list. Here is a null. Here is an undefined. Does it make sense? So this is the first thing, which is reading or querying. We have another part, which is removing editing, which is like pushing some modification. Let's try and do that. Let's, for example, try and add another child to this UL. Does it make sense? This UL has only one child. We want to add a second child. Does it make sense? Before that, let's just like take a look at it from like just ideas perspective instead of code perspective. I'm sorry for going back and forth to the whiteboard. Yeah, it's there. So let's say we have a UL and we have an LI. There is so many things over here. But this is essentially the main thing that we are focusing in. There's so many things, we only focus on these two. There's like a div and a body here that we are not concerned with. We care about these two. Does it make sense? So what's the process of actually adding a child to the DOM? The first thing that you should do is construct a child or construct a DOM element. So in this case, what I want to add to the UL, I want to add a new li. Does it make sense? I want to append new li. So the way I do it is like saying var or const or something, but I'll just say my var is just a variable. I will say document dot, instead of get element by ID and things, I will say create element. Okay? And I will give it here what? A string with which type I want to build. I want to build a P, li, ul, a div, an li. So you say an li here. And it's just a string with donated type. Does it make sense? And this will return the node. It's called a node, an HTML node. Okay? In the tree concept, we call these nodes. So it will return a node. So my var, this variable, contains a node. Okay? But now I created a node, but where it is? Did I put it somewhere?
No.
Well, we didn't put anywhere. So the browser will create this for you, but it doesn't mean it will create it inside the HTML. It will not put it inside the HTML. This is just a variable. It's like putting my var equal 5. You will have an li, but this li essentially it will be just in the browser. It will not be displayed or anything. To display it, I need to look where I want to put it. I want to put it next to this one. Okay? So I want to, so you always, in the trees, you always think in terms of parent. So I want this one to be the child of this one. Does it make sense? So I want it to be like this. I'm just doing like this because it's not real, it's not there. Like, not like this one. So I would say get element by ID. I would say ul or my ul equal document.getElement by ID ul. So I will get the UL from the, I will ask the browser about the UL. So this will return me the UL. Does it make sense? And now I can say my UL dot append child. Which child? My var. What this will do, it will grab this one, take my var, put it as a child.
What's the again after UL before child?
What?
My UL and
My UL dot append child. I will do it in code.
Okay.
I will do it in code. But this is just like when I'm on the whiteboard, just try to get the idea. Like we will do it in code. We'll go in details. But you get it? So we create an ally. Essentially, when you create it, it's like here. It doesn't have anything to do with here. You get this UL. You say append child. You do this. The browser will move it to this one.
What if we want to create another element?
What?
What if we want to create another element?
You just can create like 700 allies. You can create. You can call document.create. You can create like 7 allies here.
No. I mean, first you have an li of first generate here.
Yeah.
I want to create another UL under that.
Yeah. So you can actually. So you have here my var. So you can create another UL. So you say document.create element UL.
And for every time you have to create.
Yes. For every node you want to create, you need to create it. So every node you need to add it, you need to create it.
Can we change the sequence, for example, if I want to add that
No.
element before the first one?
Yes, you can say prepend child.
Prepend.
So append prepend.
And if we have more than 2, 3, and then if we just want to put it
Oh, you can
in
say
the middle.
insert after child.
Yeah.
You can say insert, but these are like details. You can say insert after child, and you give it the child order, and it will insert it. But let's try to do this. So by chance, I kind of remember these create elements. I just remember them. With time, you will remember these. But let's say I don't know. I'm just like add child to DOM, and you can see here append child. So you can, well, they have exactly our example.
So you don't click on double face calls.
Yeah, but it's easy.
But then they will see all this DOM content loaded, and then they have bad examples. They are not up to date.
True.
I-
Let's do it properly in MDN. So here just talking about append child, and there is an element append child. So you can create an element and append child to it and stuff like that. But this is how you actually if you don't remember, just Google it. I just remember by chance, but I don't remember also so many other things. So if you don't remember it, Google it. There's nothing wrong with that. And if someone says you don't know because you don't remember it, just ignore him. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
If there is no internet, you don't write any code.
Exactly. Don't work. Go home if there's no internet. But yeah, you remember it with time. Yes. So let's do the same. Let's create another. So just comment this code. So I will say const new li equal document dot create element. We want an li. Make sense? And here I will say, so this is an li. What I want to do now? What's the next step?
Then you have to append it to the.
Exactly. It's like we want to put it somewhere. It's like I have it, but I want to put it somewhere. How to do that? The first thing we need to grab this somewhere. Like we need to bring it to us so we can put it there. And the way we do that, where we want to put it? We want to put it inside this UL. Okay? So let's say const my UL equal document dot get. Let's just say query selector. Easy. Query selector UL. Let's console.log my UL and new li. At this point, is it? Will I see the new li inside the browser? No, we will not see it there because I created an li. I have the UL, but I need to attach them together. They are not together. Yes, and let's just take a look over here. So I have UL and I have li. You can see UL is here. It's like highlighting this, but li is not there. Does it make sense? So the next step is to actually connect this li and put it as a child of the UL. And the way we do that is by saying my UL dot append child new li. And we have a new child here. It doesn't have any text. So I want to put some text inside it now. Easy. I go to the new li. As we said, it's an object. You could see here the UL, my UL has a function here. You can see? Because as we said, like JavaScript will convert them to objects that they have like few methods and keys to work with easily in JavaScript land. So one of these is called append child, to append the child to this node. Another one is called text content. What does text content refers to? It's the text content of this. So if I will say text content here equal test2, means inside the li, I will have a text2 instead of empty. Does it make sense? No questions? Yes?
What happens if you say dot text content after appending?
Let's do that. Well, it's just too fast. It is too fast. But
append first and then show text later if it is.
So one, like here you can see that it has been appended. So in the beginning it would be blank, but
The-
then you change the text and then it just updated. It's
Yeah.
really fast.
let's do it after 3 seconds. Does it make sense? Let's do it after 3 seconds. Is it clear? What happened?
P1 system.
What?
P1. Thank you.
You could see that the UL, it's inside. We finished. We wait for 3 seconds. When 3 seconds elapsed, we put the text2 as the content. We can also like append it after 3 seconds, wherever you like. Is this clear?
You can do, so if you can think about a logical way to manipulate DOM, you can do it by code. So if you can like break it in logic, you want to do something on the page, and if you know how many steps you will do it, then you have to just code it, and I think you can find methods for almost everything.
Yeah. And I think we both work on sort of similar project that actually we don't use HTML at all. Everything is built with JavaScript. We don't write HTML. Every li div is actually, we don't say create element manually, but to give you an idea. No questions? This is really crucial. Like literally, like this is one of the most, if you understand this, you are like already like really comfortable with the browser. This is like really important thing.
I think this class is most important for job interview because if you're going for JavaScript interview, they will ask so many questions from like DOM and all those things.
Yeah. And if you understand this, you are already like 95% past.
If you can explain using a tree that you ask for a pen and paper, you draw it and you write some HTML and you say that how this is connected and you say that how you can query and manipulate, then I think you are hired.
Seriously. Don't underestimate that.
Do that much.
Yeah. Seriously. This is like really crucial part of the interview.
Many
Some-
people will forget this when they go for interview, that they won't remember things. If you can do that at that place at that time.
True.
then- They asked me only this many questions and I went for my last job interview. So like all the things I was teaching here, they were asking the same.
Questions?
Exercise?
Yeah, this will be easy.
Class.
I think in like real life, maybe we will put to the li something from the array or object, and so we should put it in the function. So it's taking one thing from the array and putting.
Yeah, definitely. Like what I'm trying to show you here is like the ingredients,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
pepper, salt, and things. But the way you combine them and you put them in a dish, and how you use JavaScript with them, and how you cook them, it's an oven, it's like a cooking plate, is like so many things. So instead of like doing an li here, I will just like show you a bit of a weird example, but let's say I have here const items, item 1, item 2, and item 3. I'm not creative at all. I will do this. Are you familiar with for each? All? Cool. So I say, all of you? When you say for each? No? Cool. Let's do a for loop. Let's do a for loop.
No, I mean, just we know the for loop, but if there is for each, then let's see.
No, it's like you should never learn two things at the same time. They will always beat
No,
you.
but we know the for loop.
Yeah, but so let's just stick to the for loop because we want to do something else. You know what I mean? So it's like I never, like even for me, I try to not learn two things at the same time because usually they will overwhelm you. So one thing at a time. So we know for loop. Let's try a new for loop, and so e is less than items dot. What is this intersectional? Make sense? Plus plus I.
No, I use
What?
They have been writing I++. Now you're teaching them ++.
Whatever, people, wherever. I'm sorry for that. I'm so sorry.
Maybe you can tell the difference between writing
No,
plus
some other David, but he's going to do something else.
Exactly. Like, don't learn two things at the same time. It's dangerous. Your mind will break. So, now I will move this one up. Okay? I will move this one here. I have the UL. So now, for each iteration, I will create an li. I will put the text content of the li to be items of I and append it here. Does it make sense? Does it make sense or not?
And what is the difference between text content and
Inner HTML?
yes.
Text content only like so. We'll explain.
In inner HTML, you can write a complex HTML,
Yeah.
and it will also create new children for that HTML if needed. So if you write like anchor tag and image tag and all those things, it will go and create more elements for that.
So text content, if you give it text.
Okay.
So if you say like n.text content, and you say like this, let's say I will take this test, okay? If you say $0, it will select the current element here. If I would say text content equal h1 test, it will literally put h1 as text. So text content doesn't treat HTML differently. It will see HTML as text. It doesn't run anything. But on the other side, inner HTML will actually, the HTML that you put here, it will be treated as HTML. And it will see that it's an H1 and make an H1 inside it. So you can see here, li, there's an H1 inside it. Instead of just text.
Currently selected element. So if you put your mouse, if you put your cursor somewhere on the tree,
Like this. So this is $0, this is $0, this is $0. So every time the currency, you can see the browser is saying $0 here.
this is a feature of developer tools.
Yeah. Use $0 in the console to refer to this element. Blah, 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 blah. Make sense? Let's go back to the example here and run it. And we have item 1, item 2, item 3. And we did that automatically. Is it cool? Or not? It is cool. Yes. You get the idea? No questions? Sure? Sure you can do exercises now and things? Exactly. So,
Can I see the codes, please?
yeah. So, you know how to query the DOM, get stuff from the DOM, and you also know how to insert things from the DOM. Is it true or not?
Going to post it on the Slack channel.
Yeah. I will post it now.
Also the HTML.
And the CSS. That we don't have. Cool.
You should stop recording, otherwise it will be used file.
Yeah.